Bailey, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about breast cancer and then how to educate and become aware. So before I get into that, I'm going to dive into a little bit of background information just so you guys are a little bit more familiar with the disease. So breast cancer is a very aggressive form of cancer, but it really can be broken down into two different forms, first being invasive, and that is where that's actually how most breast cancer is categorized, and that's when it is detected and then moves throughout other healthy tissues in the breast. And then there's also non-invasive, which is the earliest form of breast cancer, and that is where it is detected and then treated and does not move outside into other healthy breast tissues. And then from that you can also go into other categories, the other being recurrent, where it's after initial treatment it does come back. And then there's also metastatic form of breast cancer, where after it spreads into other parts of the breast, it actually spreads into other parts of the body as well, and that's kind of considered the most advanced form. And how breast cancer spreads is through the bloodstream and the lymph nodes. So getting into education, there are many groups and organizations throughout the country that you can really get yourselves educated by. And just some quick facts about why everyone should care about being educated. About 1 in 8 women in the United States and 1 in 20 men will be affected or diagnosed by breast cancer sometime in their lifetime. And then of those, there's a 50% chance that mortality rates aren't going to mortality rates are not going to decrease anytime in the next 10 years. So it really is something that is important and everyone should kind of focus on. The first organization that I'm going to talk to you about today is Bright Pink, and Bright Pink really works on motivating especially young men and women like ourselves on getting educated and knowing everything you need to know about breast cancer, whether that's screening or diagnosis or treatment. So Bright Pink does a lot of things like educational workshops and such, and they fundraise and everything, especially all for these educational workshops. It's really all that they do. Some of those include Brighten Up, which is an educational workshop where people come in and it's all in person and there's lots of hands-on tests and everything that you can get yourselves into. And then another one that they do is something called Pink Pal support groups and also outreach groups, where if you're a person who's recently been diagnosed, going through treatment, or a survivor, even if you're a family member of someone who's gone through breast cancer, Bright Pink has these outreach groups and support groups that will come in direct contact with you for encouragement or words of advice. The other educational group is the National Breast Cancer Foundation, and the National Breast Cancer Foundation, their goal is really for women especially to empower yourselves so that you know exactly what rights you have when it comes to breast cancer treatment and all of that, and to also understand your health and your body, especially during these times where your body is going through a really aggressive disease. And the National Breast Cancer Foundation does this by in-person training sessions, much like Bright Pink, also online training modules that you can find on their website. They also have many events where they hand out proper materials and anything like that to help you get set up. The last one that I'm going to talk about is the Susan G. Komen Foundation, which is probably the one that many of you are the most familiar with. The Susan G. Komen Foundation really focuses on going into communities and working with them and kind of sharing with everybody about all of the breakthrough medication that they've come up with and everything they've done that they can share with everyone about where the foundation has gone and where it's going into finding a potential cure. Like on the slide that you can see here, from the years of 1989 to 2014, they've seen a decrease in 38% of mortality rate, which is really important, and they kind of hope that that goes up to 50% by the year of 2020. So next we're going to talk about awareness, and awareness is different than education just because educating yourselves is important for you as an individual and maybe people that you know who could potentially be diagnosed or go through this disease, but awareness is much bigger than that. It goes towards the public and that kind of sector. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the American Cancer Society, and the American Cancer Society is a really big foundation that encompasses many cancers and all those diseases, but the specific thing that they do for breast cancer is an organization called Making Strides. And what Making Strides is it's a fundraising and awareness walk that takes place in hundreds of communities around the United States. And like you can see on the slide, there's lots of pink, so everyone knows what you're trying to get everyone aware of, and it's kind of a big branding thing as well. What's really cool about Making Strides is, like I said, it is in hundreds of communities around the United States, and there's also events in the Lansing area. So this is something that even all of us could get involved in. Like we see here, they do something called Bras Along the River Trail, which is actually on October 1st, just along Red Cedar. And this just becomes, it's like a very obvious way of spreading awareness. And then the one that is coming up next is Making Strides of Lansing, which is actually the fundraising walk that's in our state capitol, and that is on October 14th. Next, we're going to talk about the fact that October is the National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So like I talked about with Making Strides, all of their events are in October, and the U.S. nationally recognizes October as National Breast Cancer Month. And we can see that here because there's many emblems that are shown and worn throughout the month to show honor and support, like pink strips of hair, ribbons, men sometimes wear ties or pink shirts throughout the year. It's just a way to show support for people who have gone through breast cancer or are going through it currently. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the National Football League, and it got kind of cut off, but it's called Crucial Catch Games, and those were instituted in 2009. And essentially what they wanted to do is, this is when all these foundations really started to come out, is the early 2000s, is when they started to get very popular. So what they did here is, in 2009, every single football team in the United States instituted Crucial Catch Games in the month of October. And during this month, each team would have a fundraising event that they would personally choose to do, and then they'd also show their sentiments by wearing pink uniforms, pink apparel, and all of that. And that got broadcasted to millions of people throughout the United States, so that was a really good way to show awareness. So in conclusion, like we've talked about, breast cancer really is an aggressive disease that affects hundreds and thousands of people in this country. But through education and awareness, it's really capable that we can get breast cancer to go down in this country. Thank you.